Absolutely, we're very happy to do that.
Can't come to any openings.
Jose, thank you for coming along, and pass on our regards to Lynn. Right, move on to item 11, isn't it?
12.
12, that's right, we'll go to item 11. Go back to item 12. Okay, now we would have Uncle Phil. Proposed response to Local Government Commission request for alternative application in relation to the NAG organisational proposal. Councillors, this is a report, recommendations relating to North Rodney's representation, their desire to try and secede. So, Phil, do you want to just give us a little bit of backup to this?
Your Worship, this is pretty straightforward stuff. The report both updates you but does ask for a decision around whether council would submit formally to the Local Government Commission with an alternate proposal. It suggests not, on the basis that the Local Government Commission does not see that opportunity as a chance to advocate for status quo. Okay, so the only reason we would do that is if we had an entirely different view of governance arrangements in North Rodney.
Yep, right. Councillor Penny?
Mr Chairman, I'll move the recommendations, but I've got an amendment up there in C. I think
Right.
the whole process, this whole process is quite unfortunate in that it doesn't allow the wider public in any area, but in Rodney in particular, to actually have a say about what they think. The fact that submissions say that they don't want the status quo doesn't give people the ability to actually say, we don't agree with NAG, and we want to stay with Auckland, but we're actually not very happy with some of what's happening in our area since we joined the Super City. So I think and I know that many people feel that way. I think my extra C there asks the Chief Executive to talk to the Local Government Commission with the difficulty with this process to ascertain the views of the wider Rodney community about the process. It's NAG or nothing. You know, there hasn't been an opportunity for people who don't support NAG to actually come out and say that.
Yeah.
Right through this whole process, there's been nothing. There's no news media, there's no ability. You go to meetings and someone stands up at the back at the ratepayers meetings and says, maybe we should support NAG, and everybody in the room goes, oh, you know, and I've been to all these meetings. So there's just no ability for the majority of the people to actually have their say. So I would like to see that informed to the Local Government Commission, please.
Yep, not an unreasonable request. I think what we are trying to do here, councillors, because I think it's pretty clear Local Government Commission would like to have said no to this, but the issue is that they are constrained within the law, and the government will be the first to say that they have a piece of legislation here that probably didn't reflect their intentions. I would have thought that the smartest thing to do as a general comment in establishing the Auckland Super City is to give it a 3-term period of grace to actually get itself settled and balanced, and then make some reasonable judgments as to its workability or not, for all or some. And then of course there are other issues that I know what a gardener is quite keen on looking at is how can you amend possibly the local board structure to give a wider ambit to the rural and island wards in particular, where we have got the challenges at the moment, one in Waiheke and one in North Rodney. So look, I think that the one thing that Witta has said to me is, look, this is going to be a long process. It's going to take a while. And so I think the most useful thing at this point in time is just keep breathing and allow them to do what they need to do. and then enable the process and the next council and maybe the council after that and after that to do something about this. And I suspect the government is also eyeing up the possibility of one or two changes around our super city structure to deal with, you know, the integrity of what has been set up by the will of Parliament. Okay, now I think I've got Councillor, now can we just have a range of, I had Councillor Wayne first, then Councillor George, then Councillor Cathy, and then Councillor John. Right, Councillor Wayne.
First of all, I've just got a question around C, where it mentions, I think, the Rodney community. We need a little bit of definition there. Are we talking about legacy Rodney, which included the Hibiscus Coast? Are we talking the current Rodney Local Board? Just what do we mean by Rodney?
Rodney Local Board.
Rodney Local Board. Okay, well in that case, I just suggest those words be added. Rodney Local Board. The other issue that concerns me is around information going forward, which is separate but related to this process. My understanding is that Rodney, and if we're talking Rodney Local Board, has been substantially better off over time in terms of reduction in rates, and that's not just rates based around capital value, lower sewage charges, lower water charges. I don't know what else. It would be very constructive to put some information together that's an information piece that could be on our website or the like, factually based, that just puts some material out there, because there's a lot of misinformation often. I'm an ex-Rodney councillor, so like Councillor Webster and Councillor Watson, we've got a relative degree of familiarity with the changes and the benefits and the disbenefits since the super city structure.
Yeah, look, I think that is a common concern for us all, Wayne, Councillor Wayne. I mean, I've sat in community meetings up there really over the last 6 years, and having said those same things on many occasions, I'm sure all of you have, and certainly Councillor Penny does, the preparedness to actually accept that as fact, those assertions is something that's been a bit of a challenge in one or two of those communities. So, that is the very least that we've done thus far. We've actually provided that information to the Local Government Commission, and I see no reason why, you know, some very, very clear black and white messages relating to what have been the changes really in the last 6 years there, Phil, wouldn't be unfair.
And we can certainly do that. We'll be guided by you about how proactive we are in promulgating it.
No, you don't need to be proactive, just get up on the website.
Sure, and just further to that, I mean, as an ex-Rodney councillor, the issues especially that we had were upgrading sewage systems and water supplies and dealing with coastal erosion issues and a variety of issues, frankly, that the Rodney District Council wasn't able to do.
Yeah, never had the rating base.
It didn't have the financial viability. And that circumstance has changed a great deal under the new city.
Yep. Helensville's the best example of that. So, very good, Wayne. Yeah, it's just the facts, and my view was that if the people really got the facts and understood it, particularly given the fact that we've been accused of, you know, sort of running down their financial contribution and the equity.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite. You're absolutely right. So, Phil, I think we can be proactive there without being overly proactive.
Would you like a motion to that effect, Mr. Mayor?
I'm pretty sure that we can just do that, Wayne.
Thank you.
You have talked to Phil and Stephen and you know, yourself, Penny, John, and just convey, just get it quite clear what we need to convey by way of facts without getting up everyone's noses. Hey, piece of fine balance there. Councillor George, I've got something from you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have looked at this, and I believe that, and I'll put an amendment up.
I'm looking at it.
I believe that we should actually advise the Local Government Commission that they should look at the Royal Commission on Auckland Governance, which had quite an extensive expose of and conclusions and recommendations on how Auckland should be Auckland local government should be arranged, and that never came to pass in quite a large extent. And if I have a seconder, if you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it.
Councillor, look, I'll indicate, Councillor George, just to help you out there. The Local Government Commission be requested to revisit the extensive recommendations of the Royal Commission on Auckland Governance in relation to the appropriate structure of local government in Auckland. Councillor George, quite frankly, that seems to me like you are suggesting that they completely revisit the whole thing. And I would not support that at all. And this is not the time to wind that particular argument up.
Exactly.
And if they don't know the Local Government Commission's, the Royal Commission's report and know it intimately well, then they'll waste time sitting where they are.
Okay, well, if you're not,
So-
well, if I haven't got that on the table, I still believe that we're only just going around the periphery if we are saying that we're going to have a governance centre of excellence, because there's fundamental flaws in the current system we've got between the governing body and the local boards. And, you know, we've had workshops on that, and, you know, I don't think people actually realise the frustration with the local boards, and it's actually going to get worse if it comes to pass and the budgets are actually slashed more in the future, as is being proposed with the elections coming up. So things are, I think that the Royal Commission did, on Auckland governance, did have a totally different approach to the organisation of local government. They had 6 councils. Councillors in those 6 councils were called councillors. They also had 2 elected Maori councillors on the governing body and 1 possibly appointed. So things were different. And, you know, I've been talking to local board members who are around in the council days, and they believe that the current situation is no different, and possibly in some cases is worse than what we had when we had community boards. So I think you know, we're only just trifling around the edges with this, and I think
Stop. Look, Councillor George, what I want you to do is focus only on this. I don't want a broad-ranging discussion on the super city structure. Quite frankly, the Local Government Commission will not make any decisions about that.
Well, that's your view, Mr. Mayor.
Well, and I'm giving you my view. In the end, the government will be the one who will determine whether or not there should be any changes to the structure. We are required here solely to answer to the recommendation and proposal from NAC. Right? And so what I want us to do, rather than getting a broad range discussion today, because there will be plenty of opportunities for that, a broad range discussion today about the rights, wrongs or otherwise of the super city structure that is not perfect, and will be changed either by us through policy or by the government through legislation, and particularly the relationship between boards and the governing body. And we know there's work to be done there. But Councillor George, that's not what this issue is about. It's specifically about an application by residents of North Rodney. Now, Councillor Wayne has got it absolutely right in terms of focusing his attention precisely on the recommendation. And I do not want a wide-ranging rant about the rights and wrongs of the super city structure. That will wait for another day.
Well, I think, Mr. Mayor, I think it was 12% satisfaction by the community.
13.
13% does say quite a lot, and if we're going to sit on our hands and just believe that everything's hunky-dory in the current situation that we're in, I don't think we're really being realists.
We're not sitting on our hands, Councillor George. We are working our butts off job. And there's not one person around this chamber who's not absolutely committed to what we are trying to do for the benefit of this city. And, but the wider issue of structure is one that the government and us will deal with. Now, if you want to raise that as a specific issue, we're going to have a central government, local government forum, and I think one of the issues coming up in that, which is in about a few weeks' time, is the issue of structure and what we think after 6 years. And so, Councillor George, with the Minister of Local Government there and other senior ministers, that will be a brilliant opportunity for you to specifically raise this issue at that time.